This recording is about a mindful pause with a bit of an explanation and a guided practice to do one. And just by way of explanation, the mindful pause is a really important part of I feel anybody's therapeutic journey, because it's helping a person in that moment take a step back from what's going on and make different choices. And at the end of the day, that's ultimately what anybody wants, I think, from making changes. And a lot of the mindfulness practices that a person might do, so often when we practice mindfulness, we set aside time to do some regular meditations. But at the end of the day, the reason why we do that is so that we can make different choices in the moment. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes that can happen naturally because of the mindfulness practice. But often we actually need to understand how to use the mindfulness that we are practicing in that moment, and that's what a mindfulness pause practice is. So just to explain why it's so useful, as you may already know from the different mindfulness practices and learning that you've been doing, when we aren't being mindful, it impacts on our mental health for a variety of reasons. So, for example, when it comes to our thoughts, we might be thinking a certain way about a situation. Perhaps we're being very self-critical, or we're making assumptions about the future. And we're very much fused with those thoughts. We're attached to those thoughts. We are viewing the world from those thoughts, and that impacts on how we feel. In addition to that, we will have lots of things going on in the body and breath. Our nervous system is affected. Our nervous system often causes the thoughts and the feelings in the first place, and this takes place in the body and the breath. And again, we're not always aware that this is happening, or sometimes we are, but we're aware of it in the sense of wanting it to be different or react against it. And it's our ability to pause and recognise that this is happening and take a step back, observe it neutrally, that first of all can mean we are not getting caught up and reacting to those thoughts and feelings. But it also gives us some space, particularly when we start working with some anchors in the present moment. It gives us some space to say, yep, this is what's going on. I'm observing what is happening, and rather than this snowball into some kind of distressing moment, I'm taking a step back, and in that space I'm going to choose to do something different. So that's the whole point of the mindfulness pause, and why it's a very important part of using mindfulness therapeutically. But it can be difficult to do and to remember how to do it. So what we're going to do now is see what it's like to bring attention, maybe, thinking about a particular situation where you might be having a bit of difficulty with, and it's not nothing major, nothing sort of huge. We don't want to get too distressed, something that kind of may cause you a medium amount of distress. So we're going to sort of pick some kind of topic. And I want you to start to just bring this to mind, seeing if you can kind of perhaps just in your mind's eye imagine yourself in that moment right now, or remembering what it was like, what was triggering you, how it felt, what you were thinking, that kind of thing. See if you can just briefly take yourself back there. Sometimes it works well doing the guided practice this way, or sometimes it's a case of just having to do it in the moment itself, and see this more as a dry run. And so what we're going to do then is, once you've sort of got that in your mind, I'd like you now to start to make some contact with some anchors that you've already started working with. So maybe that might be something that works for you, something that you find easy to work with. So that might be your feet on the floor is often a good one. Your feet on the floor, body in the chair. Or it could be paying attention to different sounds you can hear, or maybe noticing your breath. And we're not pushing the situation away. The situation is still going to be there, because we can't get rid of situations. But instead we are, in that moment, pausing and then noticing some anchors instead. And just having a sense of saying, well, you know what, whatever's going on in this moment, yes, it's causing me a lot of difficulty, but I'm just going to pause, and I'm just going to notice my feet on the floor or body in the chair and my breath. I can give myself some space, just a few moments to have a bit of space. And it's the anchors, it's focusing on those anchors in the present moment, gives us that space, because it's we're not as caught up in the thoughts and feelings, but we're allowing some other sensations to come into our awareness. That's why it's helpful. But then what I'd like you to do is, from this perspective of being, some of your awareness being focused on the anchors, from that perspective, I'd like you to sort of bring some attention to some of the thoughts that you might have in that situation. So something like, I'm noticing that I'm having critical thoughts. I'm noticing that I'm, really worried what people think. Whatever that is, we're not pushing the thoughts away. We're not beating ourselves up. We're not wishing that we didn't have those thoughts. We are observing them, and we're noticing that they're there. I'm noticing that I'm thinking a lot about this situation. I'm noticing that I'm putting pressure on myself to do everything right. So just a sense of really kindly and with curiosity observing those thoughts. And then expanding your attention as well, and just noticing what's going on in your body. I'm noticing that these thoughts are causing my shoulders to hunch. I'm noticing that I've got that knot in my stomach I often get. Now I'm noticing that my muscles in another part of my body feel tense. So trying to bring a kind of observing, curious and kind attention to what's going on in your body as well. And just allowing that to be there. Now at this point, if you wanted to, you could introduce a bit of kindness and say, well, what would be a more useful way to look at this situation? Or what else do I need right now? Or maybe it's just enough to observe and notice and allow. And then once you've done that for a few moments, we'll bring our attention back more to the anchors. Again, we're not pushing the thoughts and feelings away. They're there. We can't help that. But we're bringing into our awareness some more anchors. So perhaps feeling our feet on the floor again. Maybe putting our hand around a cup of tea. Tuning into some sounds you can hear. And then seeing what it's like to return to whatever you need to do next in your day with a bit more mindful, a bit more sort of kind, mindful attention to what's going on for you. So that's the end of the pause. As you can see, that took about 2 to 3 minutes. It's something that we can easily fit into moments when we're feeling stressed. Now, it is a good idea to practice a pause just in general before you're feeling stressed. What I mean by that is, rather than only waiting until you are having a difficult moment to use it, practice a mindfulness pause a couple of times a day. Not only will this give the skills that you need to help in moments of distress, but it also will increase your awareness of your thoughts and your body and your breath anyway, which means that you might start to notice things that you hadn't been aware of. So maybe just a couple of times, or even just once a day, if that's all you can do. Stop what you're doing. If you're at your desk and you're working hard, notice your feet on the floor, what's going on in your body, bring attention to some of your thoughts, use some anchors, drop into some anchors just for a minute or so, and go about the rest of your day. Or perhaps do it, have a cup of tea, decide to have a break and have a bit of a mindfulness pause then. Okay.